everyone. Today let's learn about the records that are available for African American research. This training is an update of an original training created by Carol Lamont several years ago. The great majority of this training is hers, with just a few new updates thrown in. So how do we begin with African American research? It really isn't much different from how we begin all of our searches. First, write down what you know about your ancestors. If you are working with a patron, help them stretch and write down everything they know about their ancestors. Don't leave anyone out because you can never know when additional family members will be your key to a breakthrough. Second, you will want to record those names, dates, and locations on family group records or pedigree charts, starting with yourself. This can be done on paper or very easily using FamilySearch.org. If you or your patron doesn't have a free Family Search account, help them create one, or you create one yourself. Paper is nice, but easily lost in this computer world. Find out what will be the most convenient for yourself or the patron you are working with. Let's set up for success and ease from the beginning. According to the Family Search Wiki and Carol Lamont, there are three kinds of records to search when researching African Americans. The first type of records are the recent records. These records are after slavery from about 1870 in the United States. The second type of records are transition records. These records cover the time period from slavery to freedom. The third type of records are slave records. So following our own advice, we will start with the most recent generation, then check out transition records, and finally slave records. Recent records means that we'll look first at general federal and state records, and then look specifically at records for African Americans. The general U.S. records contain census records, military records, Homestead records, and the Social Security Death Index. The state records include cemetery, church, land, and school records, city directories, court records, probate records, and vital records. So now that we know what kinds of records we need, how do we find them? Go to FamilySearch.org, sign in if you have an account. If you don't have an account, create one. Then go to the top of the page and hover over the Search tab. The drop-down tabs will show. Click on Wiki. This is the home page for the Research Wiki. Type in African American Research in the search bar. The first two results give us a broad overview of African American research strategy. We'll look at the first result. However, I would highly recommend also looking at the African American introduction. You never can have too much knowledge, in my very humble opinion. Here is the landing page of that first result. You want to read this screen carefully and take note of all of the blue links. Family Search has made it really easy for us to be able to navigate specific research categories. However, reading this information is the key. Let's take a look under the Welcome box. The Welcome box gives you some unique genealogical features and other information. Also take a look at the box below the arrow titled How to Do African American Genealogy Research. I hate to admit it, but sometimes I get so sidetracked on thinking that I know what I'm doing that I forget to follow the great resources that are at my fingertips. Don't be like me. Let's also not forget that there are other finding aids. The Family Search Catalog is helpful. Search subjects such as locality, types of records, or time period. Look at all types of records. The African American Genealogical Sourcebook is on the reference shelf here at the BYU Religion and Family History Library. If you aren't local, go to worldcat.org and get the book through interlibrary loan. Also, check Cindy's list for African American genealogy societies, and don't forget to check your local societies. Another place to check is your partner sites. Ancestry, MyHeritage, Find My Past, and American Ancestors can be awesome resources in your research. Think of different searches and keywords. Don't limit yourself to just what you are comfortable with. Stretch yourself. Historical societies for each town, county, and state where your ancestors lived should be searched. Look for information on African American churches, schools, and cemeteries. What local laws affected your ancestor? Could they vote? Did they have a curfew? Things like that. And also, don't forget, Google can be your best friend. Here is a map of the Underground Railroad route from 1830 to 1865. Wikipedia has a great article on the Underground Railroad if you want to learn more about this fascinating piece of African American history. At one time, there was a website about the Underground Railroad, but I have not been able to find it, and the link that I had doesn't work anymore. Again, just Google Underground Railroad and you will learn much about this time and place in history. For military records, go to the FamilySearch Wiki and search military records. If you are local and still prefer paper, you can search the old research outline for military records that are in the blue binders. One advantage of the paper blue binders is that the resources listed there are correlated to those resources that are in the BYU library. Don't forget that you can also do an interlibrary loan through worldcat.org if desired resources aren't physically close to you. If you have never used the card catalog on Ancestry, you are missing out. Here's a quick lesson. Click on the Search tab at the top. A drop-down menu will appear. Select Card Catalog. This slide is showing both actions as one. They will actually be two separate actions. In the Card Catalog search box, I typed African American. You may also play with keywords. If you type in African American history as keywords, up pops a bunch of collections. As with anything computer, the look of the screen may change, but the process stays pretty much the same. So don't let the small changes throw you off your game. Here is a quick search on AmericanAncestors.org. I didn't even log in, even though I should have. So always log in. I typed in African American in the search box at the top. The right screen shows just the first few hits that popped up. There are many more. So let's learn to use all of the resources that are at our fingertips. Here's a quick screenshot, and I forgot to sign in. Don't be like me. To use the FamilySearch catalog, click on the Search tab at the top. The drop-down appears. Choose Catalog. In the search box on the right screen, I chose to type in United States in the place search and African American in the subject. You can mix, match, and create your own searches, kind of like a salad bar. Here are my results by just typing in United States for the place and African American for the subject. Looks like I have a lot of reading to do. An incredibly important transition record is the Freedman's Bank. It was officially the Freedman's Savings and Trust Company, but commonly referred to as the Freedman's Bank. It was incorporated by Congress on March 3, 1865. This was created as a place where former slaves and their families could deposit their money and save. Freedman's Bank lasted from 1865 to 1874, when it failed because of mismanagement, abuse, fraud, and other economic factors. It also left tens of thousands of depositors in economic ruin with distrust of the American banking system. These records are very valuable because there are thousands of signature cards that contain personal data about the individual depositors. In addition to the names and ages of the depositors, the files can contain their places of birth, residence, occupations, names of parents, spouses, children, and siblings, and in some cases, if you're lucky, the names of the former slave owners. There is a great YouTube video about the Freedmen's Bank. To get to it, just go to youtube.com and type in Freedman's Bank. For those indexers out there, there's been a huge push to get all these records indexed, so thanks to the indexers. Correctly identifying ancestors in slave records is difficult. It is said that even professional researchers are right only 50% of the time. For starters, I went to the FamilySearch Wiki and searched for African American research. The first link was African American genealogy. I clicked on the link about slavery in the Welcome to the African American Research page. I click on the link about slavery, and this is the information I found, searching records for slaves. Lots of good information here, but be patient and thorough so you don't miss anything. Keep in mind that only about 15% of slaves took their owners' last names. Some took surnames of people that they admired, like Lincoln or Washington. And some took surnames that they had been using for years without the knowledge of the slave owner. When a slave owner's name is known, you are darn lucky. Ancestors and slave owners were inseparably connected to each other. Look for the slave owner's name in the federal census schedules, federal census mortality schedules, tax records, land and property records, probate, estate, and chancery court records, and plantation records because they did keep account logbooks. So, can you answer these 5 questions about African American research? Before beginning a search, you should do what? Of course, write down as much as you know. What records do you search first? Slave records, recent records, or transition records? You are going backward in time. Think recent records first. What was the name of the bank which was established by the government so that former slaves could deposit and keep their money? Yep, that would be the Freedman's Bank. In addition to the names of depositors, what other genealogical information can be found in the Freedman's Bank records? Here are some of them: places of birth, residence, occupation, parents, spouses, children, brothers and sisters, former slave owners. Identifying ancestors from slave records is difficult because it is very challenging to find the name of what? Yep, the slave owner. Please share this training with patrons who may be looking for African American ancestors. Guide them through the resources here at the BYU Religion and Family History Library. This training is available for all on our BYU Family History Library YouTube channel. To get to that, just go to youtube.com, search for BYU Family History Library, and then scroll down to African American Records. Hopefully this training has given you some idea to help with your African American research. Thanks and have a great day.